Master the art of organized and scalable coding with a deep dive into LWC folder and file structure. Welcome everyone. In today's session, we are going to talk about LWC folder and file structure. So without wasting any time further, let's proceed with the video. So now what is an LWC folder? So LWC folder or Lightning Web Component folder is used to store different components for one Lightning Web Component bundle. So whenever we create a Lightning Web Component, actually we are creating a bundle of components. It itself contains different types of files, and all these files are part of one single folder. So whenever you will create a Lightning Web Component, you will actually create a folder containing different other files as part of a bundle. Now this specific folder contains all the files needed to define the component's UI, logic, style, etc. Now why it's important? Because it organizes code for easy maintenance and scalability. So in future when you want to maintain your code, that becomes easy because it is modularized into different types of files. Also, you can easily scale the UI or the logic or individual parts of it without impacting the rest of it. It enforces a clear separation of concerns because UI, logic, metadata all are separated from each other. Now let's talk about different types of files that are part of this folder. HTML file. Now we know the purpose of HTML file is to define the user interface of the component, and it features standard HTML and LWC specific templates. Now right now we are not talking about ordinary HTML file, we are talking about HTML file as part of Lightning Web Component bundle. So if it is part of that, here we can include our HTML tags, the standard HTML tags, and also we can include the custom LWC tags that are created basically for Salesforce. You can see an example code over here. Now you know H1 tags. This template tag is basically LWC's own tag. Even we will have plenty of own LWC tags. We will understand how we can use this template tag and the rest of LWC tags throughout the course. But you can clearly see that the H1, which is the standard HTML tag, is used as it is used in a normal HTML file. And definitely the role of HTML file in LWC is to connect with the JavaScript for dynamic rendering. So we render the file, we render the HTML components dynamically. So this HTML file is connected with JavaScript and performs the dynamic rendering. So we will talk about that later on. The second file is JavaScript file. The purpose of it is to handle the logic and the data processing for the component. This JavaScript file or the components of HTML, JavaScript, CSS and all that, to act as a Lightning Web Component, we should include some classes. We should inherit features from some existing classes of Salesforce Lightning Web Component framework. Now from that framework, there is a module known as LWC module, and we have to import this specific module so that we can make this JavaScript act as an LWC. And all the reactive property and methods that we want on the components are defined inside this JavaScript file only. You can see the sample JavaScript file, how it looks. So you can clearly see that we are importing from the LWC module and we are importing Lightning element class, and we are using this Lightning element class to create our own class in the JavaScript. Now there is a speciality about the naming over here, and we will come to that in a while. The next file is XML file. Now this is the file which actually defines the metadata for this specific component, where we define plenty of informations, but right now we will understand the basic one. That is, here we define what are the places where we can use this specific Lightning component. Now the feature of this file is it specifies component visibility, whether this component will be visible or not, and it also mentions about the target where we are going to use this LWC. A sample LWC component metadata file looks something like this. Here you can see there is an API version that we are mentioning, so that is one of the things that gets generated automatically. Is exposed is a property whose value can be set as true or false. If we want to make it visible, it has to be true. and then under the target's parent element we have a target element where we specify the target location where we want to use this Lightning Web Component. CSS file. Now this is one of the optional files in the Lightning Web Component bundle. So it is not required to use a CSS file. Generally the styling is standard styling of Lightning. It automatically inherits that, but in case if you want to use your custom styling or if you want to modify something in the standard styling, then definitely you need to use a custom CSS. And the purpose, it is used to provide the style to the component. Now the features of CSS file is the styles are automatically isolated to the component. So you can isolate a specific style to a component, or if you are applying to parent component, then automatically that style will be applied to all the child components of that parent LWC. Now that thing we will see practically and then only you will understand it, but not in this specific video, later down the line in this specific playlist. Now you can see a sample CSS example. It is very clear. We have mentioned a selector over there as h1, and then we use the property color and a value to that specific property as blue. So all the h1 elements over there in that specific component will turn out to be blue. Now SVG file. The purpose of SVG file is to define a custom icon. So if you want to define your own custom icon and use it in your LWC, then definitely you can use an SVG. In our course, I will show you how you can use an SVG file. But let me mention you that LWC provides plenty of inbuilt icons to you, and most of your situations will be resolved by that. Even though I will still explain this part, so in case if you want to use your custom icon, certainly you can do that. So the use case is the icons that appear in your app builder when the component is dragged onto a page. If you want such type of icons to be customized, you can certainly use an SVG file. It is also an optional file in the component. Then the test files. Now test files is also one of the optional file. Nowadays when we create LWC component, test files are created automatically over there, but it is not compulsory at all. Here we use the same jest language, which is JavaScript testing language, which is basically used to test in JavaScript, unit testing in JavaScript. So the same jest is used here to test the Lightning Web Components. Now we are not going to cover up jest throughout this playlist, throughout this course. So definitely I am not going to dig deep into test files, but certainly we will have a course where I will explain you about jest in detail. So let's see the complete folder structure of a Lightning Web Component. So if I'm creating a Lightning Web Component with a name sample component, so the folder name will become sample component itself, and it will have different files. Now you can see all the files will be named as sample component only, and that too in the same case. The only thing that will differ here is the file type. So HTML will have .html, .js for JavaScript, XML file will have .js hyphen meta.xml. So this is the complete extension. If you talk about main extension, so it is still .xml only. .css file for CSS, .svg for SVG file, .css for CSS files, .svg for SVG files, and then we will have a tests __ folder that will contain a file for testing. This is the jest file and its extension is .test.js. So we will definitely not focus over here, but this is the complete folder structure of a Lightning Web Component. We have talked a lot about it, but now it's time to see things practically. Okay guys, so here we are in our Visual Studio Code, and I have already created a new project over here. The project name is LWC Course. Not only that, I have created a new org for me, a new developer edition org, and I have authorized that specific developer edition org for this specific project. Now all these things I have explained you in one of the video, like how you can create your project, how you can authorize to an org. If you haven't watched that video, I highly recommend you to go and watch that specific video right now. And if you have already watched it and you know how to do it, then you can surely proceed ahead. Now here I am going to create a Lightning Web Component. Now how to create a Lightning Web Component? Now in that specific video I have told you that all our components and files will be part of this Force app inside our project. So basically the Force app folder is the main folder. It contains main folder itself. that contains a default folder and all the rest of the folders are part of it. Now this is the default structure of a project. Now we are going to understand it in detail later on, but right now there is an LWC folder you can clearly see. Now if you want to create a Lightning Web Component, you can create it by right clicking over here on this LWC folder and clicking on Create Lightning Web Component. Or else you can open Command Palette. Now to open Command Palette, I told you you can come to the bottom left, click on this gear icon and then click on Command Palette. Or else if you are on Windows, you can press Ctrl Shift P. If you are on Mac, you can press Command Shift P and open the Command Palette. On this Command Palette, just type in sfdx : and create, and here you will get all the create commands of Salesforce. And here you can easily find Create Lightning Web Component. Now I am going through the right clicking method, so I am right clicking on LWC and clicking on Create Lightning Web Component. I am giving it a name as first LWC. Now we always follow this case, which is known as camel case. Now in camel case, we never provide spaces, so there won't be any space in the name. Secondly, we will always keep letters in lowercase, except for the first letter of every new word. For example, right now I have given a name first LWC. So this specific name is having two words, first and LWC. So you can see first is completely in lowercase. Even WC of LWC is in lowercase, only L is in uppercase. If I would be having one more word over here, like first LWC program, so that would look something like this. First LWC program. So L of LWC and P of program are in uppercase. So as many words are there, the first letter of each word will be in uppercase, except for the first word itself. So all the letters of the first word first is in lowercase, right? So this specific case is known as camel case. All the Lightning Web Components are written in camel case. So I am giving a name first LWC and enter. Then after, it will ask me a location where I want this component to be. Now I can certainly choose a custom directory, but generally I will follow the default folder structure itself. That means I will store it in the LWC folder, which itself is in the default folder, which itself is in the main folder, which itself is in the Force app folder. So I will choose this specific folder only. Now you can see a program or a file is opened in front of me. Let me close this file. And you can also see under the LWC folder, it created a new folder for me. The name of this folder is first LWC. That is exactly the name that I have given. Now if I uncollapse this, I can see a tests folder over there, which is _ tests __. And if you will open this tests folder, you will have first lwc.test.js, right? So you can clearly see that this specific folder represents the folder containing the file for testing part. I told you we are not going to focus on this specific part, so I am just clicking on the test folder and pressing the delete key on my keyboard. So I am actually deleting the test folder. Other than that, I am having 3 more files over here, and these are the 3 mandatory files for each Lightning Web Component. The first one is first lwc.html. If you will double click on it, it will open here and it will have the template tag as the parent tag. For our LWC HTMLs, template will be the parent tag itself. If you will double click the first lwc.js, it is having that import statement, which is to import Lightning element class from LWC module. And then I'm creating my own class. If you see this class name, it's the same name as that of the LWC or Lightning Web Component name. The only thing is, it is not in camel case. So the camel case that you have provided over there will get converted into this specific case. Now in this specific case, all the first letter of all the words will be in uppercase. That's why F of first is also in uppercase. Now this is our class, and this class will extend or inherit the Lightning element class of the LWC module. If I open the last one, which is the meta file or the metadata file, it has the default code or the boilerplate code. The API version, right now it is showing 62.0, is exposed. Right now it is false. So if I will deploy this specific Lightning Web Component to my org, I won't be able to see this or use it. So this is how you can create a Lightning Web Component and you can see different files for a specific folder. Now best practices for file organization. Now first things first, naming convention. We should use camel case for folders and file names, as I told you about the camel case. Similarly, hello world is a good example that is written over here. Keep it modular. Now that means focus each component on a single functionality for reusability. So you might be getting a project where you need to implement plenty of functionalities. So for each individual functionality, create a separate Lightning Web Component over there. That will not only help you to focus on one functionality at a time, it will also help you in future to enhance the specific functionality without disturbing the rest of them. Use scoped styles. So avoid global CSS unless necessary. So don't use global CSS. Use scoped styling CSS where you provide styles to individual scopes, unless it is required. If a global CSS is required, don't hesitate to put it. But generally don't try to create global CSS. And test your code. Write unit tests for critical logic. So if you are having Lightning Web Components or JavaScript coding inside Lightning Web Components which is dealing with critical logic. Suppose if you are using fetch API with JavaScript and making integration possible in your Lightning Web Component, then you are interacting with the external environment from your Lightning Web Component itself. So in such scenario where you are doing most of your logic on the LWC side, then testing becomes crucial. Now that marks the end of this session. See you soon in the next session. Till then, thank you and take care.